Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to yet another day of our 12 Days of SwitchUp series. Now today we have a physical games episode for you. What I'm going to do is I've set myself a challenge of picking up 6 games for the Switch, physical games of course, for a budget of £100. Now I've done these in the past where I've done 10 games and people asked if I'd lower the number and kind of increase the quality, shall we say, of the games that I buy. So yeah, let's see what we can do.
Lovely stuff. I've actually become a bit of a physical collector this year. For the first time, I've got a load of different physical games, and I have to say, having seen the amount of games that have been removed from the eShop and things like that, I'm starting to see the merit in it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just some ideas for Christmas presents if you are still searching. And just before we start, a quick thank you to our sponsor for this series, Untold Tales. We will highlight one of their games during this episode. So which game did I pick up? Did I meet the challenge? Well, let's find out.
As we mentioned before, Untold Tales are the sponsor of the entire 12 Days of SwitchUp series, and we thank those guys so much. They've got a huge 90% sale going on at the moment, and we're going to highlight a different game each day. Today's game is Arise, A Simple Story. This is down to just £2.69, €2.99 or $2.99. And it's a lovely little gem. There is a free demo of this one as well if you'd like to check that out. And it's quite an emotional tale centered around the character losing the love of his life. And it has a bit of a feeling of a walking sim, has some puzzle elements in there as well. And it tries to encapsulate, I guess, one of the oldest stories of love and loss, and something that we're all going to experience. But I love the fact they also included a co-op mode there as well. This definitive edition includes a digital game edition, downloadable digital extras including an art book and the soundtrack, as well as GYRO support. Go check that out, just $2.69, well worth adding to your collection.
So the first game I picked up then, I wanted to start with a kind of middling price to give myself a baseline, do you know what I mean? About £15 was the amount I wanted to spend. So I found actually on Amazon, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope.
Absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah, absolutely. $14.99 this was.
$14.99. For me this took elements of like, was it Mario Galaxies?
Yep.
And then it turned it into like a TRPG with some open world side quests and stuff. This is one of the most underrated games, I think, on Switch.
Yeah, I think obviously it had the first game, which was revered. People loved it. I don't know if it was the Rabbids that put people off or if it didn't sell so well. I mean, it must have sold well enough to warrant a sequel. But maybe the sequel was just a bit too much. Maybe people were done with it by then. But you didn't hear it mentioned very much at all, did you?
No, I think they actually did themselves a disservice by reducing it so much in price the first time round that it almost lost that value.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because Ubisoft games traditionally drop in value so quickly, physically.
Yeah.
And obviously Nintendo games don't.
No.
But because this was a Nintendo IP created by Ubisoft, it fell into the former category and it just plummeted.
Yeah.
And maybe people were waiting for that sale, as you say. But that sale is now. And £14.99 was an absolute bargain.
It's Barjan, that is, Glen.
That's the one. So with that in mind then, you know, about the same again, £15-20 was how much I wanted to spend for the next game. And I was lucky enough in a local toy shop over here called Smith's to find the Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camp. £20.
20 quid?
£20.
20 Spawneroonies?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So this came out, I don't know, it was about midway through this year.
Yeah.
And again, it obviously is a first-party Nintendo game, but I suppose it doesn't have the pulling power these days to keep its value.
No pulling power.
And unless just this shop wanted to get rid of its stock, I don't know. But again, £20 is an absolute bargain. You get 2 games on here.
Yeah.
The first 2 obviously in the Advance Wars series. If you haven't played Advance Wars, it's most similar to something like Fire Emblem, if you've played that, of course. Again, you know, a tactical RPG where you have your units and you need to create new units each turn. But it's also quite similar to something like Wargroove. Obviously, Wargroove was inspired by it in that you can create those new units. It's not like in Fire Emblem where if you lose your units, you have that decision to make of whether to start again or not, you know. They're a bit more expendable. But these are fantastic games. I don't really like the new art style. I would have been quite happy to stay with the pixel art, to be honest. I think it just has a
cheapness.
Yeah, I mean, it does look. The animation is good. There's, you know, if you look at the cutscenes, obviously where you have the 2 units facing off, there is a nice level of animation on there, but it just has an air of cheapness to it. I must say. But in terms of pure gameplay, for £20, yeah, great. And this obviously means the total so far is £34.98.
$34.98.
So the next game I picked up, I wanted to go cheap this time. Not cheap and nasty though, just cheap. Just to keep myself ticking along. And on thegamecollection.net, another website over here in the UK, I found Stubbs the Zombie.
Stubbs the Zombie.
Stubbs the Zombie. I think it's called Rebel Without a Pulse is the full name.
It's a good name.
It is a good name. It is a good name. Now, this game came out years ago on the Xbox, and it is dated these days. But I still think it's a very good 3D platformer, or 3D world game. It's not so much a platformer. Where you obviously play as Stubbs and you have to make your way across each level. It's set in like the 1950s or an alternate 1950s. Has a great style to it. It's a very funny game. I like that 1950s style. You'll do things like you have dance-offs and stuff as well, you know. And I think it holds up fairly well. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely clunky and there's some parts of it that are dated, but this cost £9.95.
That's not too bad.
And what's ironic about it is the original on the Xbox is stupidly expensive.
Really?
It's a very expensive game to buy, yet this port of it, that's obviously also physical, is dirt cheap. So £44.93 we're on at the minute, and then I wanted to throw myself a curveball and buy a more expensive game to make it a bit more difficult for the last couple. And I found a game in a kind of trade store that we have over here called CEX, and it's Doom, the 2016 Doom on the Switch. Now, the reason I bought this, I mean, £25 this cost for a game that has been out for a while now. You know, it might seem a bit expensive. It's actually almost impossible to find these days.
Really? So it must be a bit of a collector's item now, is it?
Potentially. It's not yet. When it first came out, it held its value incredibly well. It stayed at £40. You just could not get it for cheaper than that. Then they released they re-released it, with new packaging, and it had a couple of codes in there for the other Doom games, you know, the original Doom games.
Yeah.
But even that's hard to find now. It's obviously just one that had a small print run.
Right.
So just for myself as a collector, I wanted this in my collection, and it's the first time I'd seen it at all in years. But just for the sake of this video, I did want to just, up the stakes a little bit by going a bit more expensive, which meant at the minute we were on £69.93. And I mean, this is a great game. This was one of the first kind of magical ports for the Switch. It was a panic button, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, it was. It was like their first outing, and everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, this looks amazing."
Yeah.
Still has a bit of blur to it, but in the handheld, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it's such a high octane game. It's so visceral, isn't it? That, great game to buy if you can find it. That's the only caveat with this one. Next, then, so obviously now I had about £30 left, give or take, for 2 games. I had to buy 2 more games. And in a shop called Game, I was trying to make sure that I didn't buy from the same place all the time. That was another part of a challenge. The part that I just self-inflicted. I wanted to try as many different outlets as I could. So this was from Game over here, and I got new Tales from the Borderlands.
Yeah, it was interesting, this. It took the... did you play the first Tales of the Borderlands games back in the day?
No, I didn't.
Right, so I played them on mobile, weirdly enough, but they're very much in the Telltale vein of games. But then this new Tales from the Borderlands was taken over, I think, by EA.
Right.
Or someone along those lines, a bigger publisher.
Yep.
So I think there was a lot of people that were slightly worried about what that would mean for it. I'll be honest, I didn't like it as much as the older style. I mean, you can just kind of tell behind the scenes who's running things from that standpoint, who's developing it. Little nuances, little jokes and things didn't land for me as well as they do. It's quite modern in that regard.
Right, yep.
But the actual game, when you get past the intro, which is just a bit, you wouldn't like it because it's just so on the nose.
Right, okay.
That initial bit.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it starts to pick up and actually ends up telling a really good story.
Well, the reason I bought it, obviously for this challenge, but because we just played Borderlands, and hearing that there were these games that were side stories in this world, I thought it would be quite interesting to dive in and see what they were like. Do you know what I mean? And this was £14.98.
It's not bad.
So that left £15, give or take. We were on £84.91 by this point.
What's he gone for?
So I went into, this is the only duplicate in terms of shops, I went back to Smith's Toys because I heard that they had Lego Brawl in there, which is like a Super Smash Brothers clone, for £9.99, which would have been ideal. I went in there, they had one on the shelf, I took it up to the counter and it was sold out. So I was leaving empty-handed, still needing one game for this challenge, and as I turned around, on the end plimps that you have sometimes, they had like reduced to clear games.
Right.
And for £10 on there was Miitopia.
Miitopia,
which
that's
is
a weird game.
Yeah, it's very strange, but it's a very quirky and very fun little game that came out, I think it was on the 3DS originally, where you have to, you basically put yourselves in, you put your Miis in, don't you?
Yeah, I played it, yeah.
And they fill in, obviously, the roles in the story. You have the wizard, and you have the protagonist, and you have this and that. And I actually played this with my daughter on her Switch Lite, and she come from something being very personal to you by having yourselves in it,
Yeah, I was so confused by this one. In fact, very similar gameplay-wise to Various Day Life. What a ridiculous title.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, yeah.
Very similar gameplay mechanics, you know, like where they're kind of walking along and it feels a bit out of your hands. But I think where it succeeds with Metopia is that it is so light-hearted and it is your own characters, you know. Various Day Life, I was like, nah, thanks.
Yeah, this is where this one shines, as you say. Having your own characters in it really does make it. And that brought the total to £94.91. So there's your 6 games with a £5 to spare. So I bought myself a Subway on the way home. And yeah, I think I've done all right there. I think the challenge was not just 6 games, but it was 6 games that were of that higher quality tier. I mean, 3 of those are published by Nintendo for a start. Do you know what I mean? Doom is one of the best ports back in the day. I think that's not too bad at all.
Nicely done, sir.
So there you have it. There's 6 games, hopefully, that I picked up for £100. What did you make of my finds? I tried to, scale different places, not just go to one shop all the time. Do you think these games would be worth picking up for that price?
Lovely stuff. Yeah, do make sure you let us know any physicals that you've picked up as well. Remember, we do have our discount code for PlayAsia if you want to save a bit of bunts, and we get a little kickback from Nintendo. And once again, a massive thank you to Untold Tales. Please do go check out their publisher's sale, where you can save up to 90% off on some really good games. All the links will be in the description and the top pinned comment.
Absolutely. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Until next time, happy gaming.
I'm back in 2020, dabbing. Do you dab?
Have I dabbed? No. The closest I got to dabbing was buying those. Do you know where dib dab?
Sherbet.
Yeah, with the lollipop.
Yeah, you ever have a sherbet dib dab, Jared?
Yeah.
Oh, did?
Yeah, you got to have it.
There you go.
It's better than all that nonsense.
It is.
That's a proper dab, mate.